My mother cried at my father's funeral. 3 days later, I found the letters. She hadn't been grieving. She'd been relieved. My father was buried on a Monday. By Wednesday, I wished I could dig him back up and tell him I was sorry. Not for anything I'd done, for everything I'd missed. I found the letters inside a copy of Jane Eyre, third shelf, his study, a room my mother hadn't entered in 11 years. 7 letters, hidden, cherished, and one he'd written to himself that nobody was ever supposed to read. I read every word. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Here's what my mother told my father. Sometime around 2003. I'm staying for the children. Don't expect more than that. He wrote it down, in a letter to nobody, buried in a desk drawer like a wound he'd learned to live with. He called himself grateful for a woman who regarded him as an obligation. 20 years of grateful. I was 14 when she said that to him. I was in that house. I heard nothing. My mother is not a monster. That's what makes this worse. She's sharp, composed, the kind of woman who shows up to a funeral in a black dress she bought 14 months early, while her husband was still dying, because she was organized like that. She cried beautifully at the graveside. I held her hand. I felt it tremble. I believed every second of it. I am a forensic accountant. I find the number that doesn't belong. I didn't find it until I was alone in a dead man's study, holding proof that my father spent 3 decades invisible inside his own marriage. I didn't confront her immediately. I documented first. Always document first. I photographed every letter, sent copies to my email, created a cloud folder, called Eleanor Marsh, family attorney sharp as a blade, who read the draft letter and said quietly, I don't have a kinder reading of this. Then I called James Whitfield, my father's oldest friend, 30 years, a man who gave a eulogy about my father's integrity and meant every word. I put the letters on the cafe table without saying anything. He read them, all 7, 12 minutes of silence. Then, he once told me, she has never asked me a question she actually wanted the answer to in 30 years. I excused myself to the bathroom and stood over the sink until I could breathe again. I went to my mother on a Sunday, 16 days after the funeral. She was in a gray cardigan, pearl necklace, almost rested. She offered tea. I put the folder on the coffee table. I found these in Dad's study, I said. I've read all of them. Something moved behind her eyes. A small recalibration. He kept them, she said, quiet, like she was talking to herself. You knew. I knew about Margaret, she said. The others, I didn't want to look. Why not? Because then I would have had to do something about it. I let that sit there between us. He wrote something, I said, to nobody, about what you told him, about staying for the children. She went very still. He said he spent 20 years being grateful for a woman who regarded him as an obligation. The room was louder than anything I'd ever sat inside. That's not entirely fair, she said finally. Then explain it. 40 minutes. She talked for 40 minutes. About marrying young, about a life that wasn't what she'd planned, about the calculations she'd made in her 40s, that leaving cost more than staying. He wasn't a bad man, she said. I know. He was just, we were very different. Did you love him? Silence. What do you feel now that he's gone? I said. Underneath all of it, what do you actually feel? She looked at her hands. Relieved, she said. There it was. Not grief, not guilt. Relieved. I drove home, called Daniel. 2 words. She said relieved. He went quiet for a long time. Then, what do we do now? I looked at the folder on my passenger seat. 7 letters, 1 draft, a man's entire buried life, documented and photographed and sent to my cloud. I haven't decided yet, I said, but I know exactly what I have. Full story on the channel linked below.